Surely we all in society are repressed for our bad actions when they erupt onto the scene, which would be law of the land in past times. Yet due to the pettiness and pusillanimity of the exalted social consensus in the idea of Abraxas, the Olympians and Titans would be those seemingly opposed forces, which are related that need to be reconciled and balanced. And I put a footnote. Previously, the Olympians and the Titans, were united. Titans and Olympians were called the Pantheon. Okay? They were just called the Pantheon. They were all together. Surely in Jung's idea of individuation, Titans, as aforementioned, could represent the shadow, unconscious, the more coagulated aspect of being. Thus, in the Taoist idea, yin. The Olympians, the personal conscious ego, etc., which would point to the yang. The equilibrium of such would lead to the numinosity of the Olympian realms, the collective unconscious, and clear affinity between animus and anima. Okay? So, bringing the darker side, if you will, of your innate being, and the lighter side of your innate being, the more acceptable side of your innate being, into unison, into unity, and living out of those two principles, okay? That's an individuated self. That is I an individuum of Carl Gustav Jung, individuated self, okay? And that's the goal. That's the goal, is to bring both sides in balance and not to have any repression going on within your being. You know, the will must be able to do that which it is that it must do. You have to be able to live out of the central core of your being, and the central core of your being is both light and dark at the same time. Abraxas speaks both good and evil in the same breath. Okay, so continuing forward. Okay, so after the yin yang, okay, but really is the Taiji 2. But this is the thing: the Taiji 2 is the yin yang. There's a little bit of misnaming almost. There's a little bit of confusion in each of these ideas that I brought out. The idea of Par Brahman. You have all these different sects that are arguing over the idea of what Par Brahman is, and how recognizing what recognizing Par Brahman is. The same thing that you see going on within sects of Christianity. Catholics are this or this or this. A Christian would say, or the Catholics will say, oh man, these Christians are this or this or this. And then they'll all spit on the Jews. Oh, you crucified Christ. And the thing is like, wait a minute, both of you guys got your religion from Judaism. Okay, it's a Judeo-Christianized religion. Both Christians came from the Catholic Church. If we remember Martin Luther and his 95 Theses that he nailed on the wall of the church, which was actually very brave idea being executed, because he could have been killed at that time for what he did, going against the Catholic Church. But back onto the topic, you're going to see that as we get from the purer realms into the more physical, earthly realms in this idea, the more multitudinous, multiplicity based ideas, the dualistic based ideas, there's confusion that starts to creep in. Taiji 2 can be used to term the depiction of yin and yang, and also the long form diagrammatic structure of the Wu Ji becoming the yin yang, the 5 agents or elements, showing unity further coming into multiplicity. The unity to the 10,000 things. From unity to the 10,000 things, basically, is what happens in this Taiji 2 diagram. But the Taiji 2 is really just the yin yang. Any circle that has the central pole and has the two dots indicating the yin returning to yang, returning to yin, is what they call Taiji 2. Okay, in the idea of Pangu, okay, which is a deity we're going to talk about, we even at the most gross and base level of physical existence are connected to the source of all existence, and all myriads of things find their reason in the source, in knowledge of no difference. The sentient human being is able to know and understand this fully, thus our advantage over other life. However, in our cleverness, begging for greater consciousness, we are disobedient, and in contrast, if we look around, less sentient forms follow nature and its laws perfectly with little anomalous action or deviation, or our freedom and sophistication proving to be our burden. Okay, if you just think about it, the liberated state is about being able to follow nature, to follow what is natural within inside of yourself, but it's the sophistication and the subordination to societal regulations, societal rules, thinking about what will this person think about me if I back away from the group and I don't do these things anymore. What will that person think about me? It's the illusion of self-esteem that causes one to shy away from the natural impulse. And you feel to do certain things, you feel to be a certain way. There are even socially applicable models for you to do those things if that is what you wish to do, whatever that is that you wish to do. However, you worry to do those things even in a socially applicable format because you are afraid to be found out by those that would shun you because of their ill-placed moralistic ideas, which are purely dualistic. And that is something to think about. The tyranny that is being wielded over your life and my life. You see? But me, I'm a bit of a freedom fighter. I'll fight for my freedom. I will fight tooth and nail for my freedom. And my freedom is my will. And I will do as I will as long as I harm nobody else and impede upon their will. See? Love is the law. Love under will. And love is a construct of society. But that's going to get into a whole nother talk, but I've already stated what that means within what I have aforementioned. Before I dig myself a bigger hole, let us continue. Okay. So this paper, I'm basically going to get into some columns of these opposites, okay? We've gone over the Taiji 2 model from Wuji to Taiji 2. And like I said, I'm not going to get into all the 5 elements and the 10,000 things because we know what those are around us. If we search ourselves inside of ourselves, the 4 elements at their most intrinsic property that you need to know are thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. If you look into your dream cycle, for instance, if you start to do active imaginations, you record these things and you start writing these things down, and start juxtaposing them with other materials and look and see, oh man, I'm starting to see these constants pop up, these different constants. What you'll see is you may be heavy on sensation, you may be heavy on intuition, you may be heavy on feeling. There may be something, maybe intellect is lacking, you see. For me, emotion is lacking. Intellect is there as far as thinking. Sensation is there. Thinking, sensation, feeling. Intuition is there for me as well, though, too. Feeling is one of the portions that I'm deficient in. How did I find that out? Through dream work, through active imagination, through several things that have continually been shown me in a very repetitive fashion in dreams. Now, I'm going to say something that I think I've said in another lecture, and that is a saying by an old rabbi that said, a dream uninterpreted is like a letter written from God unanswered. And God is a very good speaker, if you will, or the higher self is a very good speaker, because what it does is it repeats itself. You may think it's not repeating itself until you get a dream, for instance, that is like a deja vu type dream. Like, man, I've dreamt about this place before. Like, I had this as a reoccurring dream. You know, I've been here before. It's a really important message that's being recapitulated to you in the same frame and format. See, so it's something that needs to be paid attention to there, right? So what I'm going to turn around and do is now passing over possibly how you can get into understanding the 5 elements, moving up from the 5 elements, right, to the unity of those elements by finding a way to synthesize the positive, the negative, all positive and negatives that are found within the 4 elements within you, right? Finding a way to unify those and to bring them back to their original state. Start off with a clean slate, possibly. You know, a clean slate, if you think about it, isn't that what salvation is in a nutshell? You know, to have all of your sins and impurities washed away. So that is a desired state, you see. So what I'm going to do is read off some lists of opposites directly out of the framework of the 7 Sermons of the Dead, as they correspond directly to the idea of Abraxas, okay? And I'm going to throw a few other ones in there from Parsifal and also from the Eastern Taoist idea, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, when I read these lists off, there are 2 columns. I'm going to say that I'm reading from the more feminine column, and then I'll say that I'm reading for the more masculine or logoic column. And you have to understand that these ideas are going to juxtapose with one another. As you hear me read these things from the column, I may say some things about them to kind of help bring them home a little bit. But as I read these things off, you're going to see that, oh man, this is the same type of idea. And you can take these 2 columns and look at them as Boaz and Jachin, the Freemasonic pillars. And the key is to bring them in unison, to stand in between these pillars and to give both sides recognition, because one is truly leading to the other. To give you a sneak peek at what I'm going to talk about is the idea that these pillars, what they sum up is leverage in all things. The power that you have within you to, just like Archimedes said, you know, if you give me a place to stand and you give me a fulcrum and you give me a lever, I'll lift the entire universe, you know? And I'm going to flesh that idea out in another lecture, and that will be a really short one, but with a really groundbreaking idea is something that I've intuited, but I've finally been able to flesh it out, and it's something that has been giving me an upper hand in a lot of things. It not only applies to martial arts, it applies to life, and I've been seeing how the philosophy of martial arts that is intuitively gained applies directly to life as well, though, too. You know what I mean? And that's the key in martial arts, for instance, or even in these philosophies, these ideas that I'm spitting out, how to find a way to make these groundbreaking, true serum ideas work in your life. How can you utilize this in your psyche? First, you have to know the parts of the psyche. First, you have to know some parts of your being and how to find where those parts are in this type of material. And in some of the shorter videos that I'm going to be coming out with here shortly, and this kind of some sidebar commentary, I'm going to make some very short videos that will kind of guide you in how to make quick and easy reads of some of these things that are going on the outside of you and on the inside of you. You know, because I found some systems that just as this information has roots in very old esoteric knowledge. And it really begs me to wonder, were these people privy to these forms of knowledge before they put out their systems and just called it whatever they wanted to call it, or said it was whatever they said it was? And it's like, did they know these things and possibly commit some type of plagiarism? If they did, I mean, the originator is still karmically linked to the dissemination of that information, so nothing is lost for that individual. But it really begs me to wonder that how is this so syncretically linked, this information, to other things? But there are little key principles that I'm gonna start making videos on that will lead you into ways to crack open this information, and really anything that you come across on YouTube that people are spitting out of the sides of their necks, and also in books as well though too, and also just in your day-to-day. If you can look through your eyes and you can see yourself in everything, and you can see yourself and your psyche as well, how it is self-similar as in the idea of a fractal, if you will, to everything around you, and to locate each one of those pieces within their proper order, their framework of order. There's so much that you can get from your life. You can see the beauty of life. You can see the beauty of life if you know the code that underlies it. And I need to start putting out in a shorter format those informations. That way individuals can get much more from these talks and anything else they come into contact with, which is going to be the next push for me, my next prerogative in any other video that goes up on this page. Because those of you that have sat through these longer conversations, more power to you. It's never about me. It's not about me. I don't look for any pat on the back, any high five, really, any preferential treatment, any a hug. I'm not looking for any of that from what it is that I'm doing here. I do it for the love that I have inside of me for this knowledge. You see, if I could sit and talk for days to somebody about this, I would. I just simply would. I'm that much in love with it. You know, so it's somewhat, in a way, it's a labor of love. And I do say that a lot, but it's simply effortless. The most effort I put into this maybe is the video editing that I have to do in order to actually disseminate. So we're going to get into this now. So here's something that I'm going to read here very quickly before we get into this. So one key thing about amassing all this knowledge, which in the 4 key symbols in the mysteries of Abraxas, in the 7 sermons linked to the tree, is that no matter what we know about the unconscious, it is occurring with binding force, and its effects are in play whether we know it or not. Knowing only allows one to be a conscious participant in unconscious proceedings. And that's what I was just talking about earlier. Like the tree I'm talking about, I will take a picture of this diagram that shows how the tree, which we'll talk about, the dove, the serpent, how the tree, the dove, the serpent, and the fire, the flame. These things all unite together. They're linked, and they're elements, powerful, spiritual, but we can also say psychological elements within you that you can utilize if you understand them within their proper balance and order. You can utilize them towards really understanding at what process and what stage you are in your life and your undertakings, what you're going through, and maybe possibly too what the next step is, what the next state is. If you're going overboard with a certain energy, maybe it's time to switch to the opposite side and glean positives from the opposite. And that's why I'm going to read these columns here. But what I'm going to read though is something about the combinations of these four agents of the psyche, as spoken of in the seven sermons of to the dead by Jung. And it's this idea of how to know, if you will, the energy of Abraxas. And in a way, we kind of are getting into some grand aspects of the four elements within these ideas here, okay? And Abraxas being the unity, the unifier of these elements. You see what I'm saying? And after Abraxas is gone, who comes? Phanes, okay? And Phanes is a light bringer as well. That's a Christ-like deity, a Luciferic, meaning light bringer type deity or type energy. You see what I'm saying? So this whole energy of the idea of the energy of Abraxas actually brings long-lasting, powerful psychological change to an individual that can grasp the ideas. You see? So without further ado here, I found some interesting parallels while studying and compiling information for this lecture, which focuses on the four agents of the psyche as spoken of in the seven sermons. I'd like to open up with these findings and then read a two-part list that will elucidate aspects of the four agents and relate them back to the Eastern Taoist idea. We will find that that development of these energies and understanding of them will correlate to animus/anima progression. Okay, this is doing the work. Getting into this it's a real. I look at it as a really easy way to understand doing the work of individuation. This type of stuff can be explained in really hard ways to understand, really long, voluminous ways to understand, or you can get this a bit easier. And I looked at this and I said, man, it's really amazing that when Jung wrote the seven sermons to the dead, most all of his works that came after that, okay, were recapitulations of stuff that he put in there. It's a real heavy book, but it's a real light book. It didn't take him that long to actually write that book. You know what I mean? It was a great work, but it's something that one might even say that it was just something that he kind of just threw out there, but it was based on a lot of things that he was receiving that linked directly to Gnostic ideas. And we'll find that within our own dreams, especially bigger dreams that we have when we're in a libido regression, for instance, when we're going through the worst times of our life, linked back to Gnostic and also alchemical, pictorial, and energetic levels of the process. Okay, so what I did here was I wrote this little thing that was showing basically combinations of the four agents, like, because I started to see some parallels. And I was like, man, let me see what these things would bring me if I combine them. Okay, and some of the things I found were pretty interesting, and these combinations might serve you as they have me in understanding what some of these energies kind of represent when commingled. Okay, so combinations of the four agents of the psyche in the seven sermons, Jung. Okay, so 1, the serpent and doves, link with wolves and sheep in scripture, wisdom and gentleness. Okay, it's the idea. Jonah, whose name means dove, can archetypally be seen as the dove being swallowed by the serpent, who can equal chaos. The serpent can equal chaos, the dove being Jonah. So the serpent and the doves could represent a symbolic death and also a resurrection with increased knowledge, with a goal that comes out of that, though, because we know when Jonah was spat out and washed up on the shore, what ends up happening is, if you look at the Hebrew root for the word Jonah, you're going to find that it means to Hellenize. And Hellenizing means, like, to infiltrate a community or a place with an idea that is foreign to them. And I believe that it's a more of a Greek, a Greco type of idea that they get infiltrated with, and it changes up their whole population because of the beauty and the symmetry of those systems. You see what I'm saying? And if you think about it, Jonah going into Nineveh, which was Babylon at that time, and speaking the knowledge of a Hebrew deity and God, and getting these people to convert, that was a changing of a whole society. It doesn't really seem like he did anything that great until you see that the idea that he sold to these people turned society on its head. And that's possibly why he was so damn mad at the end of it, because he was like, man, here these Gentiles are turning in to receiving my tradition. I'm a Jew, and here these people are being saved by my Jewish deity, and now they're practicing Judaism, or some forms. They've assimilated some forms of Judaism, and I was the one that was used to bring these Gentiles to this knowledge. A lot of people don't think about that idea when it comes to Jonah and what happened and why was he so angry at the end of things. Something to think about. Okay, so